On April 14, 1886, a powerful tornado ripped through central Minnesota. It moved through the city of St. Cloud, flattening buildings and scouring the landscape. Whole city blocks were devastated. Then it jumped the Mississippi River and virtually destroyed the larger community of Sauk Rapids on the eastern banks. When it was over, 72 people lay dead. 213 were injured. But St. Cloud's Hospital was left standing, and it became a beacon of hope for the shocked population. The dedication and competence displayed by Benedictine Sisters who staffed the hospital was exemplary. Until relief came from nearby towns and the Twin Cities, these women worked 48 straight hours to care for those injured in the disaster. It was a dramatic test for the fledgling hospital in a town where residents had been unconvinced of the worth of a permanent hospital. But the people took a second, favorable look at the question when they saw how effectively St. Benedict's hospital staff responded to the crisis, to neighbors and friends and members of their own families.
Too much cannot be said in praise of the self-sacrificing sisters of St. Benedict. The providential escape of the hospital gave our poor wounded a place of refuge, and the sisters in charge proved to be true angels of mercy. They've won the love and respect of every class and sect by their untiring labors of love and mercy. St. Cloud Times, April 1886.
Well, the attitudes at that time was that don't go to the hospital because that's where you die. And it was only after the tornado when people realized that if they did go to the hospital, they needed the care. They got good care, and they were discharged and went back to their home and continued to live a productive life. So little by little, the attitudes toward healthcare were beginning to develop to be a very positive one. It was a whole change for people's perceptions of what healthcare was to be.
The Sisters of the Order of St. Benedict in St. Joseph, Minnesota, had just opened the hospital in St. Cloud 2 months earlier, in February 1886. This was a new venture for the Sisters. Benedictines follow a rule whose core is a life of prayer lived in community. Their work is determined by the needs of those who live nearby.
Well, the rule of Benedict, in addition to saying to do the work that is necessary in the area, the rule also says that the care of the sick is just vitally important, and the sick person is to be treated as Christ himself. So that really, doing hospital work really fits in very well with the Benedictine life, with the Benedictine rule.
Benedictines typically look for people outside their membership to join their efforts. By 1889, on the front of healthcare alone, these Benedictine women opened and began operating not only the hospital in St. Cloud, but one in Bismarck, North Dakota, and another in Duluth. The sisters were making good on their declaration of intent to care for the sick of the region, enunciated in a letter to the St. Cloud City Council dated August 24, 1882.
Gentlemen, A hospital is a desideratum long felt in the northern part of our state. The sick must now either be sent far away or must be lodged in miserable hovels not calculated to benefit them in soul or body. The necessity of building a hospital is evident. Have we a community to take charge of this enterprise? Yes. We, the Benedictine Sisters who have labored in Stearns County 26 years, have concluded to devote ourselves to this sacred cause. Respectfully, Sisters of St. Benedict, August 24th, 1882.
The letter also asked for partnership from the city, moral support, and financial backing to help build a fine 3-story brick hospital in St. Cloud, where the conjunction of rivers and railroads promised thriving commercial enterprise and population growth. Though the council referred the Benedictines' proposal to a subcommittee for further study, the request eventually dropped from meeting minutes. In 1882, a young medical student emigrated from Montreal, Canada, and established residency in St. Cloud before leaving for Rush Medical College in Chicago to complete his studies. A.C. Lamont Ramsey returned to St. Cloud in 1884, excellently trained, having had the opportunity to study with some of the finest surgeons in the country. In September 1885, Ramsey opened a tiny 2-bed hospital, but within 3 months learned he could not manage it and maintain his medical practice. He turned to the Benedictine Sisters, asking if they would operate the hospital. Mother Scholastica Kirst, prioress of the Benedictine Sisters, lost no time responding in the affirmative. For $2,000, she purchased a newly built house on what is now 9th Avenue North and had it modified to serve as a hospital that could accommodate 15 patients.
Mother Scholastica was a young person with a lot of energy. And if she had an idea, it probably was going to become fact. I think she was prioress probably 8 or 9 years. And during that time, she started 17 schools. She built a hospital in Bismarck, North Dakota. She started the St. Cloud Hospital on 9th Avenue and expanded that. She did great things historically when we look at her legacy.
The March 3rd edition of the St. Cloud Times, just a week after the hospital's dedication, reported several patients being treated at the hospital for complicated medical problems requiring surgery. 2 were from Melrose, 1 from Perham, and another from Little Falls. Already, the advantage of having a good hospital in St. Cloud seemed clear, at least to some in the region. But as winter turned to spring, census at the hospital lagged. The Benedictines wondered if they had made a mistake. Then the tornado struck, erasing doubt. The hospital would not want for patients again because Dr. Ramsey and the sister nurses showed people that these were the qualities of care they could expect at St. Benedict's Hospital, even in a crisis. This heritage remains the distinctive character of hospital care in St. Cloud. Dr. Ramsey's stay in St. Cloud was too brief. He died September 28, 1891. Other doctors, also well-educated and highly motivated, continued to establish practices in St. Cloud and nearby towns. Physicians have been major drivers of the standard of care and resources available at St. Cloud's Hospital throughout its history. Through their initiative and generosity, they have demonstrated that the community's health is their chief concern. For about 80 years, the Benedictine Sisters would own and operate St. Cloud's flourishing hospital, staffing it with skilled nurses and support personnel who were encouraged to see patients with St. Benedict's eyes, as if they were Christ. This is a perspective that asks nothing but the finest, kindest care for each person. The sisters' service to the hospital's mission and their influence on women and men who join in that service continues to this day. Hospital care in St. Cloud rapidly changed after those early days in the 1880s. Demand for hospital care jumped so sharply that in just 4 years after the 1886 tornado, the sisters built a new hospital east of the Mississippi. With accommodations for 30 patients, the new facility, St. Raphael's Hospital, was double the size of the old one. But by 1899, it was clear the hospital needed yet more space for patients and a more accessible location. The second St. Raphael's Hospital, built on 9th Avenue North next to the original hospital, featured 2 operating rooms and 50 patient beds. The vacated hospital building was immediately transformed into St. Joseph's Home for the Aging. St. Joseph's quickly filled to capacity, so without a doubt, it answered a genuine need in the area. The brand new St. Raphael's Hospital was dedicated May 26, 1900, and flung open its doors to the 20th century. In 1908, a year after Minnesota mandated that all nurses working in hospitals be licensed, St. Raphael's established its training school for nurses. Physicians were an integral part of the nursing school curriculum, responsible for lectures on medical topics. St. Raphael's Training School for Nurses augmented the hospital's nursing staff and improved its quality of care. It also offered unmarried women, lay as well as religious, serviceable professional education. The school eventually would open its doors to men and married women, carrying on its tradition of nursing education for 79 years, until June 1987. Throughout the early decades of the 1900s, rapid change was the norm at the hospital. In 1918, for example, the Roman Catholic Church set aside its injunction against religious assisting women giving birth. That same year, Sister Kunigun Kiefler took charge of the maternity department at St. Raphael's. By 1920, the hospital had set up its first medical laboratory. And physicians had organized into a medical staff with compulsory monthly meetings where they reviewed case and death records. St. Raphael's Hospital was quite busy and cramped. When the Spanish influenza epidemic hit the St. Cloud area hard in 1918, it underscored how woefully inadequate St. Raphael's facilities had become.
We had to expand. We were just on top of one another. St. Raphael's was so crowded, patients were in the parlor and hallways. And we didn't have enough storage area. Sister Julita Hoppy, Hospital Chief Administrator, 1925.
The sisters, with the direction of the administrator, Sister Julita Hoppy, decided to build a hospital for the future of the community. The cathedral-like hospital, which opened in 1928, had 7 stories facing west and 10 facing east as the land sloped to the river. One local news reporter summed up the impact of the hospital this way.
St. Cloud Hospital will be more than merely a material and civic asset. The value of so great a scientific institution is beyond immediate comprehension. No expense has been too great, no detail too exacting, no requirement too difficult, if the end was to be excellence and completeness. And because these things have been done so well, the hospital is a thing almost animate. It lifts itself from the realm of steel and stone and wood into the world of service, because the Sisters of St. Benedict have endowed it with an individuality and a personality. St. Cloud Times.
The final $2 million price tag for the hospital was staggering. 2 phases of a capital campaign yielded only 0.5% of the debt. Initial enthusiasm didn't translate to financial support. Why was it necessary to build so large, so magnificently? It was the Sisters' hospital. It was the Sisters' debt. And they shouldered the burden. Sisters working at the hospital took no salary. The Benedictines received small stipends through teaching and other jobs. These efforts helped make interest payments on the St. Cloud Hospital debt. Then, on October 29, 1929, the U.S. stock market crashed, dragging the American economy into the Great Depression that lasted 10 years. Prioress Mother Louisa Walsh asked all of the sisters to tighten belts and send something extra to the mother house toward the hospital debt.
The building was put up in 1928, and in order to do that, the sisters had to borrow $2 million. Now, $2 million in those days was a lot of money, probably the equivalent of $220 million today. The sisters throughout the community were being asked to cut back on everything. Do not buy any shoes unless you just possibly cannot wear what you have. Cut down on the food in order to make enough money to pay off this loan.
Surgical gloves were mended, sterilized, and reused. Patients, visitors, staff, and sisters were fed with produce raised in a huge garden plot that the sisters tended. Some patients who couldn't pay their bills, especially those from rural areas, would bring produce, livestock, eggs, or dairy products as payment. There was never any question but that the hospital would find a way through the times and continue caring for anyone who needed care. In the years since, how many administrators and board members have looked back to the bold move forward that the 1928 hospital represents as they contemplated another risky step into the future? Along with the rest of the country, St. Cloud Hospital slowly regained balance, moved forward, and began to grow again. Beginning around 1946, poliomyelitis hit central Minnesota hard. The epidemic would last into the 1950s. The National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis, now called the March of Dimes, considered St. Cloud Hospital a center for polio treatment. To help combat the effects of the disease, St. Cloud Hospital hired its first physical therapist, Marion Schmidt-Becker, in 1951.
The polio epidemic was very pervasive. It was very contagious. The sisters worked long hours with the patients because those patients required a lot of physical therapy, exercises most of the day, it seemed. And the sisters were working with that to be able to recover from the disease.
In July 1958, A group of women who just wanted to help the hospital got together and, with the chief administrator's permission, formed the St. Cloud Hospital Women's Auxiliary. Their threefold aim was to assist where they could with the work of the hospital, sponsor projects to raise funds for the hospital's benefit, and serve as the hospital ambassadors to the local community. Within 3 years, Nurse Rosalie Timmers, an enterprising charter member, suggested that the group sponsor Candy Stripers, later called Junior Volunteers. Current volunteer numbers have grown to more than 1,200, and volunteers have remained exceedingly faithful to their founding aims. It is not possible to calculate the great good that has been accomplished through the efforts of hospital volunteers. Both the hospital and the city would be poorer without them.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Rounding into the next decade, mighty winds of change were blowing that would have profound, far-reaching consequences for hospital care in St. Cloud. In 1962, the Benedictine community in St. Joseph voted to incorporate the St. Cloud Hospital as a separate corporation. Then, in 1964, the sisters deeded ownership of the hospital's land, buildings, and equipment to the St. Cloud Hospital Corporation for the sum of $1, launching it into the future on solid economic footing. These changes gave hospital leaders the freedom and power to invest their expertise and intelligence, their insight and imagination into meeting the region's healthcare needs. In 1966, Sister Jameen Mape, the hospital's chief administrator, helped set a sound course for the hospital by leading the careful development of a strategic plan for growth. This was accompanied by a $14 million expansion and renovation program, the hospital's first major building project since 1928.
The new building campaign was on. This was a series of major building expansions that created the southwest wing, the northwest wing, and it also included building a separate convent for the sisters on the campus. This expansion of the physical plant of the St. Cloud Hospital meant expansion of services.
The expansion of services meant the hospital would venture into new territories of care. These included an inpatient mental health unit, an alcohol and chemical dependency program, an extended care and rehabilitation program, and a critical care unit. Some of these ventures were financially risky. All of them responded to serious community needs. In June 1967, Jean Bakke became St. Cloud Hospital's first lay chief administrator. Bakke's appointment was another step in opening the circle of leadership for St. Cloud Hospital.
At the time when Jean Bakke came in, one of the first things that he did was to do a reorganization of the staff. So he put in people that would be in charge of nursing and physical plant, and kind of broke the duties of the hospital into categories and put a person in charge of each of those areas, which was a more organizational change than what had been prior to that. He had the legacy, I do believe, of navigating the hospital through a lot of regulations that were not in effect prior to his days.
Jean Bakke's mode of collaborative problem-solving led the hospital to broaden its horizons of caregiving by opening St. Benedict Center in 1978, dedicated to developing a continuum of care for aging people. Now called St. Benedict Senior Community, services include long-term care, subacute care, memory care, assisted and independent living for seniors, and HUD housing for seniors. Another realm of care began in the 1970s with the arrival of a young internist with training and experience in the emerging field of hematology-oncology. Within just a few years, doctors were regularly referring their leukemia cases to Dr. Harold Winchittle. In 1977, Dr. Winchittle became part of a small group of physicians who founded the North Central Cancer Treatment Group. Based at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, the group continues to make the best cancer drugs and treatments available to patients. By 1984, a strategic planning retreat made it clear that board members, administrators, and physicians all saw the St. Cloud Hospital moving toward defining itself as a regional hospital. This tiny seed of consensus was the DNA that would direct the hospital's growth into the 21st century. When Gene Bakke announced he would step down at the end of 1984, the hospital conducted its first national search for its chief executive. Out of a pool of gifted candidates, John Frobenius emerged as the man with the skills, energy, and imagination to lead St. Cloud Hospital into the future.
John Frobenius, I happened to chair that search committee for his appointment. And when we came upon him, he was a man of great energy. I remember very, very clearly the interview we had with him. He did not sit down. He moved around through that entire interview, and he had so much energy and so many ideas of what could be done with St. Cloud Hospital and where St. Cloud Hospital would be going. So we hired him. It really became necessary for the hospital to form relationships with doctors' groups, the various clinics that were around, because we really needed to solidify the patients coming to the St. Cloud Hospital. At that point yet, people thought that if they needed really good care, they have to go to the Twin Cities. And we were beginning to say, look, we've got so much expertise here in St. Cloud. There are lots and lots of specialists. So it was a matter of getting the specialists to work with our hospital and form different kinds of relationships.
St. Cloud Hospital and the physicians who practiced there were creating relationships of trust with doctors and other healthcare professionals across the region. At the same time, St. Cloud Hospital was blossoming in its new areas of specialty care. For example, Dr. Norm Vernig was hired in 1988 as the hospital's first neonatologist, an intensive care specialist for newborns. In a year's time, he set up the neonatal intensive care unit with proper equipment and nurses specially trained to support this work. Cardiologist John Mahold, nephrologist Tom Leiter, gastroenterologist Scott Hutton, urologist John Matsura, and others like them were building clinical programs at St. Cloud Hospital, conducting outreach clinics around the region, and assuring critically ill patients that specialized care was as close as St. Cloud. Nurses and other healthcare professionals were critical in building those specialty care programs. Then Vice President of Nursing Linda Shimoleski's role expanded.
We at that time were very committed to patient-centered care, and we knew in order to accomplish that we had to bring professionals together working as a team. So my role changed at that point in time. I had been the Vice President of Nursing. At this point in time, it changed and expanded, and my responsibilities now included professionals that worked outside of nursing. And we were committed to this. We felt that if nursing, pharmacy, medicine, spiritual care, social work, to name just a few, came together and looked at the patient as a team rather than as individual professionals, that we would be much more successful in truly providing the level of care that we wanted to for our patients and grow those specialty programs. We continually evaluate what our community needs, what our patients need, are there better ways of providing the care, and we do feel confident that because of that constant evaluation and willingness to change, that we do deliver the highest standard of care.
Even as these efforts were going forward, the hospital undertook a risky venture that had been pressing for some time: a clinic for uninsured and underinsured people. The hospital opened the Mid-Minnesota Clinic in 1990. Respecting the dignity of its patients, it serves all who enter its doors and provides services to help patients find funding sources to pay for their care. In 1996, the clinic launched a family practice residency program in collaboration with the Mayo Clinic. The program is now sponsored by the University of Minnesota School of Medicine. The 1990s saw continued growth in specialty and subspecialty medical care in St. Cloud and the region. By 1992, the heart program, begun 9 years earlier, had grown into the Central Minnesota Heart Center, performing more than 500 open heart surgeries a year, while expanding its vision, services, and reach into the region. The Heart Center recently was renamed the Centricare Heart and Vascular Center. The early 1990s also saw exponential growth in the St. Cloud Clinic of Internal Medicine, housed on the hospital campus. The growth occurred in the number of physicians and the range of specialties and subspecialties they represented. In 1995, the clinic and St. Cloud Hospital merged to form Centricare Health System, an integrated healthcare delivery organization. The arrangement provided financial backing for expansion of services. At the same time, it provided a patient base accustomed to excellent care from physicians offering a wide range of specialized services in St. Cloud. In 2001, the system opened Centricare Health Plaza, dedicated to outpatient services. When John Frobenius stepped down as the hospital's president and health system co-president in 2003, Dr. Terry Pladsen became the sole health system president. The board of directors entrusted the administration of the hospital to Craig Broman, who brought broad experience and deep commitment to faith-based, mission-driven healthcare.
I think I was very much aware that this organization was grounded in faith-based values and a strong mission statement. You don't find that everywhere in healthcare today, and that was certainly similar to my past of being in an organization that was very mission-oriented. So I looked forward to an opportunity to continue that that philosophy of delivering care and really focusing on the needs of a community.
Broman has overseen the inauguration and growth of hospital services aimed at enhancing the quality and safety of the care patients receive, while continuing to address innumerable economic and regulatory challenges. At the same time, the hospital launched a $223 million building project. Construction began in the fall of 2008 on a 360,000 square foot wing on the hospital's southeast side. The expansion adds state-of-the-art surgical suites, increases the number of private rooms, enlarges the neonatal intensive care unit, and replaces the 25-year-old adult intensive care unit. Today, St. Cloud Hospital is a thriving regional medical center, offering a wide spectrum of programs and services. The 489-bed hospital employs nearly 4,500 people, including more than 1,400 nurses, and it benefits from the service of more than 1,200 volunteers. More than 450 physicians serve on the hospital's medical staff. As St. Cloud Hospital looks to the future, it faces an array of challenges: changing technology, rising costs of medical equipment, tighter government regulations, smaller insurance reimbursements, increasing numbers of people who need treatment but cannot pay or who are inadequately insured. How can St. Cloud Hospital address such a daunting list?
Well, we inherited the mission statement of St. Cloud Hospital, which is to improve the health and the quality of life of the people in central Minnesota in a manner that reflects the healing mission of Jesus. And so our job is really to enhance our services and our programs and our reach in central Minnesota to realize this mission statement. So I think as we continue to really carry forward that mission statement and the values of the Sisters of the Order of St. Benedict in providing health care to central Minnesota, we really haven't left in any way or deviated from that mission statement. We've just broadened the geographic boundaries. So I think we're well connected to our past. We're well connected to the legacy of the Sisters of the Order of St. Benedict, and I think our culture in the organization is also really enriched because of the work of our founding sisters.
The 1928 News Reporter was prophetic.
Years hence, the hospital and the things that it means to St. Cloud will be an accepted fact. Those persons in St. Cloud today will recall the splendid spirit that prompted the growth and development of the hospital center, and will appreciate more deeply the years of toil and patience that made it possible. St. Cloud Times, 1928.